No one told her happy birthday in 200 years, so I walked into her throne room and did it myself.
I walked into her throne room uninvited. No one had told her happy birthday in 200 years. Part 1. The door no one opened. Everyone in the valley knew the rule. The iron gates of Vaelthar Keep stayed shut. Not locked. There were no locks. No locks were needed when fear did the job better than steel. The keep sat atop the Ashfell Ridge like a scar on pale skin, its towers black against a sky that never seemed fully blue near it. Snow fell there even in summer. The villagers said the cold was her breath. They said other things too, but mostly they whispered them into their soup and hoped she could not hear. Her name was Queen Serevyn Duskwhisper, and she had ruled the northern reaches for longer than any written record could confirm. The elders said 200 years. The youngest of them said it felt like 1,000. I had no reason to go there. I was a cartographer's apprentice, 23 years old, carrying a leather satchel, a half-eaten apple, and what my mother diplomatically called a dangerous shortage of self-preservation. I was mapping the ridge trails when I found it, a date carved into an old waystone near the base of the keep. The stone was cracked, moss-covered, worn by centuries of frost. But the numbers were still legible. The 9th day of the 5th month. I checked my pocket calendar. Today. It was her birthday. Part 2. The uninvited guest. No one had dared bring her anything. I know because I asked the village elder when I passed through that morning. She looked at me as though I had asked whether I should drink from a poisoned well. You do not visit the queen, the elder said. You survive the queen. But something about it bothered me. Not the danger, or maybe the danger was part of it. Something about the idea that a person, even a queen, even a creature of frost and terror who had lived for 2 centuries, had spent 200 birthdays entirely alone. Not celebrated, not acknowledged, not even remembered by the world that feared her. I bought the last small gift box from the market stall before it closed. Inside it, I placed a piece of honeyed walnut bread, the kind that smelled like warmth. I tied it with a red ribbon because it was the only ribbon the vendor had. It looked absurd in my hands as I walked up the ridge, a scraggly apprentice with a wrapped bread loaf, walking toward the most feared throne room on the continent. The gates opened on their own. I chose not to think too hard about that. Part 3. The throne room. She was already watching me when I entered. Queen Serevyn sat on a throne that looked like it had been grown rather than built, black iron twisted into branches, studded with blue gems that pulsed faintly like slow heartbeats. Her skin was the blue-gray of deep glacier ice. Her hair fell straight and silver-white, long enough to pool on the steps below her seat. She wore armor not as protection but as a statement, layered dark plates etched with symbols I could not read, with a sapphire set at her collarbone like a third eye. She raised one hand, palm forward. Stop. I stopped. The silence in the room was not empty. It was full of cold and weight and 200 years of accumulated solitude. Frost crystals drifted slowly through the air between us. I could see my breath. She said nothing. She waited. I held up the small gift box with the red ribbon. I know you didn't ask for this, I said. My voice echoed oddly. The room swallowed it at the edges and gave it back softer. I know you probably don't want a visitor. I know I'm not supposed to be here. I exhaled, but I saw the date on the waystone, and I thought someone should say it. So, I straightened my back. Happy birthday, Your Majesty. Part 4. 200 years of silence. She did not move for a long time. The frost crystals kept drifting. One landed on my nose. I did not wipe it away. Then, slowly, she lowered her hand. Her eyes, pale silver blue, the color of sky at the very edge of dawn, moved from my face to the box in my hands. Something shifted in her expression. Not warmth, exactly. Something older than warmth. Recognition. As though a part of her that had been very still for a very long time had just taken a breath. "You read the Waystone," she said. Her voice was low, precise, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. But underneath it was something thin and careful, like ice over deep water. "Yes," I said. "And you came here, alone, with..." Her gaze dropped to the box again. "That honeyed walnut bread," I said. "It was the best thing at the market." Another silence. Then something happened that I suspect no one in the valley would believe me if I described it. The corners of her mouth moved. Not into a smile, not quite. Into something that was practicing at being one. "You are either very brave," she said, "or catastrophically foolish." "My mother says it's the second one," I said. This time, the sound she made was unmistakable. A short, quiet exhale through her nose. Almost a laugh. The frost crystals around us slowed, as though the air had shifted. She extended one hand, not to stop me this time, but toward me. An offering of space. Permission. I walked forward and placed the box in her palm. Her fingers were cold even through the ribbon, but they closed around it gently. Carefully. Like someone handling something they were afraid might disappear. Epilogue. What the frost remembered. I left the keep as the sun touched the ridge. I did not look back, but I heard it, faintly, carried on the cold air behind me, soft as a secret. The sound of a ribbon being untied. They say the queen does not celebrate. They say she does not feel. They say she has not been human for so long that humanity no longer applies. But I know what I heard, and I know that somewhere on that ridge, behind iron gates and 200 years of silence, the most feared queen in the north sat alone with a piece of honeyed walnut bread, and, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, felt something other than cold.